Hi, I'm Jaden with Pack Leader USA. Today we're going to be talking about our SL77 shrink sleeve applicator. We're going to talk about a couple options we have on here as well, the perforation option and our mark sensor. And then we'll also look at how to set up our pack leader conveyor and our radiant heat tunnel. So the first part of setting up our SL77 is we want to make sure that the application portion of the machine is centered over the conveyor. Now that we've got our SL77 centered over the conveyor, we're going to go ahead and make sure to lock down the 4 leveling pads on this machine. So I'll go ahead and tighten these up. And then we also want to make sure that the lock nuts are tightened as well to make sure it doesn't come loose. So we're going to go ahead and adjust the height of our SL77, and what we're going to generally do is keep the bottom of the applicator about 50% of our cut length above the top of the container. So an example would be, in this case, our cut length is 30 millimeters is how long we're cutting our film, and so we're going to want to be about 50% of that, which is 15 millimeters. So that's how far we want to be above the top of our container. So I'll go ahead and lower this using the height adjustment wheel down here. Now we're going to go ahead and set up our guide rails, and we just want to make sure that our product is centered on the conveyor, and then we'll go ahead and bring these in and lock them into place. So we're going to go ahead and install our film right now. What we're going to do is remove the supply reel cover. So we'll go ahead and undo this, and then we're going to put on our film. Go ahead and put our cover back on. And then we're going to take our film and we're going to go around our brake arm. The brake arm is going to make sure that we have tension on the film, but it will also release the film as it gets pulled. So we'll go ahead and pull this all the way up here. And we also have the wind instructions on the side of the machine as well. So now what we're going to do is go over this roller up here. And then we're going to run our film in between the out of film sensor. So this is a retroreflective sensor that lets you know when the machine runs out of film. As soon as there's no film in there, it'll go ahead and shut off the machine, let you know to replace your film. So we'll go ahead and run it through there and then across these 3 guide rollers. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and put in our the film keepers, and this will just keep our film tracking right. If you've purchased the perforation option and or the mark sensor, we'll go ahead and look at how to set those up. So on the perforation option, we'll loosen this thumb screw, and we'll go ahead and slide it into place where we want the perforation to start. And then we'll go ahead and lock in the wheel that'll be cutting into it. And then on the mark sensor, we can go ahead and adjust where we want the sensor to actually read the marks on your film. So this is a clear film on here, but you could move it up and down depending on where the marks are. Then you can also adjust where the sensor needs to read inside the film back and forth here. To continue installing our film, we're going to go ahead and take our mandrel here and run the film through it. And what this does is this opens up our film and separates it, so that way it can apply to our container properly. So we'll put this in between here. And we're going to go ahead and insert it in between these 2 rollers here. And then we're also going to make sure that the film is running down in between the pulling rollers, which are underneath these two. And then we'll set the mandrel in place and then tighten up our guide rollers. And what these are going to do is these are going to stabilize the mandrel, so that way it doesn't move around during the application. But we also want to make sure that these aren't too tight and causing too much resistance on the film. So I'll go ahead and adjust these in, and then we'll back them off just a little bit, so that way they can spin freely, but they'll also guide the mandrel. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and close our PU rollers. There are certain applications that may require tilting the applicator. In order to do that, we can loosen the screw back here, and then this allows us to rotate the applicator. We're going to go ahead and take a look inside of the control box. Before we do that, we want to make sure to disconnect our power. So we'll go ahead and open this up. And inside of here, we have our step-up transformer. This takes our 110 volts and steps it up to 220. We have our power switch, which controls our power. We also have our DC power supply back here. This is what supplies all of our DC voltage. We have the PLC. This is what holds our program for the machine. And then we have our in and out board, which tells all the components what to do. And then we have our fuses over here. So each one of the components inside of here is fused. So if any of them aren't working, the first thing to check is make sure that the fuse hasn't been blown. And then we also have our breaker. So this is for the main power. If there's a short or a power surge, this will be tripped. And then lastly, we have the stepper driver. This is what controls our pulling motor. The SL77 shrink sleeve applicator can be wired up for 110 volts or 220 volts. We've got this one as 110 volts. We suggest running it off of a dedicated 15 amp circuit, as this will prolong the lifespan of the electronics inside of your machine. Now that we've powered up our machine, this is the home screen, so we'll go ahead and click enter. And we're now in the setting mode that we'll use to set up our machine. So right here we have the link setting. What this does is tells the machine how long to cut the film. So we've got 30 millimeters right now is how long our film will be cut at. We have the presser cap time, when this controls how long the presser will stay down. We also have the product setting. This allows us to put a preset number of products to run. So if we wanted to run 100 products, we could put that in here, and then the machine would shut off after it's ran 100 products. We also have the counter reset, and this keeps track of how many products we've ran through the machine. And then we have the bottle sensor delay time. This is the delay for the product sensor from the time it reads the container to the time the machine fires. Auto mode will turn on our applicator if we push the on button. And then we also have film length mode in mark mode. So since we're running clear film and don't have any marks in our film, we'll go ahead and leave it on film length mode, and that will just cut our film at 30 millimeters every time. And then we can go into the setting mode, and this has the cutter return delay, which controls how long the cutter blade stays pressed in. In engineering mode, if we go into here, it's going to give a warning statement. So we'll go and just click yes. And then what this has is we can do one cycle, and this will just pull the film through. We can also jog the film here, and that'll kind of pull the film down. We can do a pull and cut, and then over here on the cutter and press, we can cut the film, and then do the cut return. We can do the press, and then release the presser. And then the fixed nozzle, we can extend it or retract it back, and then we can turn the nozzle on or off. And then we have the same for the adjustment nozzle. We can extend it or put it back, and then we can turn it on and off. So this is mainly used for setting it up or troubleshooting your machine. The SL77 comes with a SICK retroreflective product sensor. What we're going to do to set this up is we want to make sure that it's right before the applicator of the machine. So we're going to make sure that the sensor is shooting at the reflector on the other side across the conveyor, and then we're going to go ahead and calibrate it with this yellow button here, and then we'll make sure that the amber LED is lit up, and that will show that the sensor has been calibrated properly and is reading. Now that we've set up our machine, we can go ahead and turn on the label head. more information about our SL77, please visit our website at packleaderusa.com.